simple representation is if you have an asymmetric payoff, if you make more when you're right than you lose when you're wrong, all right, then you are anti-fragile. And if you have more to lose than to gain, you are fragile. Same applies to a coffee cup, to anything, to China, anything, all right? And of course, the volatility will be the vector, that will cause you to lose. So I introduced this, but instead of, so far the book is not technical, so I introduced it via Fat Tony and then Seneca. Seneca also was like Fat Tony, but much more intellectual. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, who was precisely not Greek in the sense that he was practical, and he had a practical approach to Stoical philosophy. The guy was the wealthiest man in the world. And he was obsessed with the fact that when you're very wealthy, you have more to lose than to gain from wealth. So he trained himself every day to wake up thinking he's poor, and then rediscover wealth. And once in a while, he would get he would mimic, like he would have a shipwreck in which he writes that he like lives as if he were on a shipwreck with only 1 or 2 slaves, right? You get the, so that was his, but he was the wealthiest man in the world writing about how to love poverty. You get the idea. But the guy was good at it. He figured out that you have to always be in a situation where you got more upside than downside. And then you don't have to worry about randomness. And in fact, the strangest thing is not that he said it. I picked it up in him. I was shocked. I said, this guy is talking like normal people. With all academics, the view of Stoicism is that they'd be like academics, all right? Boring and like vegetables. Stoicism unmoved by the world. No, they're only unmoved by bad events. That's central. So via Seneca, I introduced that notion of asymmetry. Always have more upside than downside from random events, and then you're anti-fragile. So I go through Fat Tony and Seneca to drill the point, and it sort of works. Also, this book has titles and subtitles, and there's no connection between the title, the subtitle, and the text. All right? So why? Because I wanted, since I wrote my first book, I was afraid of reviewers. But then I said the best way to have a book is to tick off reviewers from day one. So that way I don't have to fear them. And reviewers, they want to skim a book. They can't figure out what it is about. Plus, I put 600 pages of a map. Actually, it's a Google text, by the way. You guys are warehousing it for free. So far, it's 400 pages of math, dense math, as backup for this, plus a technical appendix. So just to tick off reviewers, so the idea is that I want people to go through the reading experience. So they can't figure out by then that I'm talking about, the whole book is about Jensen's inequality, all right? Things that love randomness and how to benefit from it. Now I'm going to go to California and talk to you guys about a phenomenon. I'll skip the chapters because here I have more Greek philosophers, more stories. Something very simple. I'm going to simulate a process here. This is not in the book, by the way, all right? This is outside the book. Simulate the process where you have 2 people competing. One person has knowledge, and his brother has convexity, has a convex payoff. And the difference between them would be the difference between knowledge and a convex payoff will be what I call the convexity bias. I simulated it, and look how big it is. Well, visibly, this explains something that people so far couldn't understand. Trial and error, okay, has errors in it. Do you agree? So in history books, history of technology, people usually oppose trial and error versus theoretical knowledge. But they never were able to work with trial and error. They didn't understand it had to be convex. Trial and error relies on luck, but luck can hurt you. So it was never modeled as an option. Technology as an option. If it's modeled as an option, and I'm sure there'll be other questions, so I'll go over this very quickly. If I were to model it as an option, trial and error, then it would be something that loves volatility. You see? Option loves volatility. And you can have policies that come from it. My idea of flaneur is very simple. I'd much rather have series of options, like have a long highway with a lot of exits, than be locked into top-down plan, like a highway with no exits. A destination, you exit. That's it. So